Alright, what is up guys? It is Robert at Gaming with Me, and welcome to a video talking about Astro Bot. This is a game that came out, at least when I'm recording this, last week. Came out on Friday. Right now, it's going to be like the same day I record this, hopefully. But essentially, I played this game yesterday, or 2 days ago. I started playing it 2 days ago, and I 100%ed it yesterday. I absolutely love this game. It's a fantastic game. It's one of my favorite 3D platformers of all time. It's so good, which also ends up being one of my favorite platformers of all time. If you know me, my favorite genre is platformer. I love the genre. I love jumping around and exploring worlds and levels and precision platforming. All that is so damn fun to me. I loved Astro's Playroom. I really want to play Astro Bot Rescue Mission on VR one of these days, but unfortunately I don't have that VR headset. But yes, I absolutely love this game. It's fantastic. Now, a lot of discussion online with this game is incredibly positive, understandably. I was very interested in hearing some of these reviews and seeing some of these comments by people, and there's a decent amount of people that are comparing this game to some of the greatest of all time. We're talking Mario Odyssey, Mario Galaxy. And when someone does that, when someone does these things, I get, admittedly, it sets your expectations, and you're like, holy crap. Like, to me, Mario Odyssey and Mario Galaxy, especially Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 are my favorite games of all time. So when you start to say, hey, this game is like one of your favorite games of all time, it's like, oh, I wonder how I feel about that. That's going to be interesting. The gameplay that you're seeing from Astro Bot is early footage. It's really just, it's just for me collecting coins to get like some of these like different little gotcha stuff where you unlock kind of like costumes for characters or your skin. It is not a big deal. It's not anything spoilery, but it's also me just kind of blazing through levels just to collect coins. Regardless, when I finished this game, I had a pure smile on my face. I enjoyed it every second, and I started thinking, right now it's 5 in the morning. I couldn't sleep, and so I said, yeah, let's make a video on Astro Bot. Is Astro Bot better or as good as Mario Odyssey? No, it's not. And in fact, I definitely don't think that in the slightest. And now, just saying it in that discussion makes it seem kind of harsh. In the end of the day, Astro Bot by itself is a fantastic game. It's amazing, but I think people forget how fantastic and peak Mario Odyssey was, how peak Mario Galaxy 2 and Mario Galaxy 1. People genuinely have short-term memory loss. I really believe it. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about platformers. We're talking about 3D platformers. I think a lot of people start to get mystified by the visuals and stuff of this game, which are some of the best visuals that you could see. In terms of animation, it's the best, essentially the best animated video game I've ever seen in my life. Every single individual character has their own animation. There's a bajillion things throughout the level that you can just interact with, and they'll do some short little animation. It's actually nuts. And the care and the love and the attention to detail is bar none, is the best in that field. However, when it comes to being a platformer, a lot of people forget that Mario Odyssey just is unlike anything. Astro Bot, comparatively, is a very simple platformer. It's the best simple platformer you could play. Astro Bot has a jump, and then he could hover with his little lasers, and his lasers could take out some enemies. He could attack by like punching, and he could technically spin for like 0.1 centimeter more of length, but it's not really used to like a Galaxy where you could jump and spin and really kind of propel yourself forward or jump a little higher. It's not what Astro Bot does. There's no run button. And at that point, realistically, that's essentially all of Astro Bot's moveset. And because of that, it does limit some of the platforming elements that make some like a top tier greatest of all time platformer. And people forget that Mario Odyssey, you're able to, long jump, throw your hat, long jump into that, you jump off your hat, and then you could then you could throw your hat again and like long jump again. You do some crazy distances, and you have the freedom to traverse this nice sandbox like open area however you want. That level of movement freedom, that level of platforming freedom, it feels like nothing else you've ever played. It is literally controls perfected. I think my good friend Glock did. I could even link his video of it. I remember him doing a video on that where it's like 3D perfected, and it's completely true. Like, Mario Odyssey is literally the perfection of controls. It's unbelievable. And if we're being honest with ourselves, Astro Bot doesn't even have half the moves that Mario did back in '96 with Mario 64. Mario 64, you were punching just like an Astro Bot. You were doing triple jumps. You were backward somersaulting. You were wall jumping. None of those moves are in Astro Bot, and so it makes it feel a lot more limited in what you could do around this area. And you may say, well, Robert, it's it's not a open area. Yeah, you know what also wasn't an open area? Mario Galaxy. And Mario Galaxy had a backward somersault, a wall jump, all that good stuff, and it felt so satisfying to literally long jump around a whole gravitational pull in terms of a planet for Galaxy. And that also brings it to me, why are we comparing Astro Bot to Mario Odyssey? I think it's just because it's the newest game, but Astro Bot is not like Mario Odyssey. It's not trying to be Mario Odyssey. If anything, it's more trying to be like 3D World, Super Mario 3D World. And that's like the best Mario comparison that you could bring it. Super Mario 3D World is like the definition of a simple Mario platformer. You have some of these extra moves like backward somersault, but you don't really need to use it very often. It's really a straightforward jump and run sort of movement. Some of the best, simpler moveset platforming, as you could say. It's phenomenal, but you also still have those power-ups like the cat suit. Then you have the double cherry where you could turn into 7 different Marios and run around. Like, this is stuff that has been done, on a Wii U. Super Mario Galaxy had galaxies. It had individual worlds with its own theme and its own missions within the galaxies. You would go back to return to those galaxies, which also changed where you were in. You would further explore the galaxy even deeper. Mario 3D World, on the other hand, had the individual levels that had a wide variety of sections and gameplay styles that you would go in, and that's what Astro Bot is more like. You have these worlds, and then you have levels in the worlds, and you don't return to those levels. It's just, obviously if you miss like a puzzle piece or something, like any other thing, but it's individual levels with their own individual themes, and it's fantastic, and it has a wide variety. I'm not trying to downplay it. I love it. I love how it came out. It's fantastic. But that's how it is. It's more like Mario 3D World than any other Mario game. And in that case, if you were to compare the two of them, that is quite tough. I love Mario 3D World. I played Mario 3D World a ton. And recency bias in me kind of wants to say Astro Bot is better than Mario 3D World. But it's like by an inch, man. They're not that far. It's not like, oh my god. Because people forget, the epicness of 3D World. That ending with 7 different cat Bowsers, and then you're scaling this tower. It's like this was all running at 60 FPS on Wii U. I know a lot of people kind of point out, like, oh, look at the amount of objects on screen for Astro Bot. And yes, that is impressive and it's fun to mess around with. But at the end of the day, when it comes like to the objects, other than when it's the 100 characters, that is very much like Pikmin in that sort of style, a lot of times it's like balls. It's literally like 1,000 balls are on screen, and it's fun to hit around the balls or treasure or whatever's on screen. But in the end of the day, like, I'm gonna take the 4 cat Bowsers while you're scaling the tower, and the music's pumping. Like, that shit is awesome. It's epic. It's fantastic. The only reason I bring up that is because I think a lot of people are distracted by the jiggly wigglies of Astro Bot, because it is amazing looking. It is absolutely incredible looking. Where you could compare Astro Bot to Galaxy is in its theme. It takes place in space and you're going to these levels, but they're not like their own individual worlds, like I said. It also does take power-ups from Mario. In the end of the day, Mario Odyssey, right? Those power-ups, the things that you could do, I think people forget. You could take your hat, throw it at an enemy, and now you become that enemy, and it controls completely different from Mario, and it has its own move. That blew my mind. The power-ups from Astro Bot, I was looking it up, the number is like 12. Decent amount of power-ups, but also a decent amount of them are from Mario. But what's cool is that they take their own little spin on it. We talk about Astro Bot in the same realm as 3D Mario because I feel it's like the first game that really tries to take a shot at that type of platformer. I think about the last few 3D platformers I played, and just nothing really comes close to the peak of Mario. It's actually insane. I think about Crash 4 is, you know, Crash 4 is fun. It's really good, but in the end of the day, you know, it's Crash. It's not even. I know some people will have different opinions, but it's not close to the realm of Mario. Sackboy: Big Adventure, I really think it's a great platformer, but it doesn't come close to what it's trying to be, which is like 3D World. 3D World definitely is better than Sackboy. There's some indie games like Castle on the Coast that feels really good with its awesome moveset that you could really do some crazy momentum and stuff, but its lower budget kind of affects it and brings it down from being able to really flex its true creativity. Another fantastic platformer, Psychonauts 2. That's one that platform-wise is definitely up there. It's just what brings down that game overall is the combat. I don't love the combat. It doesn't need to be there. I think about also Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy that I played only like, what, 2 years ago at this point, maybe less than that. That's another fantastic game that has its own unique sense of style, and in terms of like its open world structure and how they do that is actually really damn impressive, and that was on the PS2. Another peak platformer-esque is It Takes Two, fantastic cooperative game that is unbelievably creative in terms of its level design and stuff, but it also isn't pure platformer, so I'm not going to quite compare them in that term. But there's a lot of platform, but it's not a platformer. There's also a bunch of other classic platformers that I also haven't played yet, to be fair. You know, there's just so many games out in the world, right? But in terms of what I played in terms of platformers, this is kind of where I think and where I stand, which is why Astro Bot is like the first platformer, and I don't even know how long I could think of, to be honest. I feel like for me it's like ever, that really has the budget, it has the quality, and it has that creativity and that conviction to really try to get a piece of that Mario pie and really try to get as close as you can without having to be Mario as a Mario type platformer, and it's really impressive. It really is. But again, it takes a lot of its power-ups and stuff from Mario. I mean, the Cloud Mario from Galaxy 2 is in this game. Astro was able to suck up this like goo or whatever type of material and make 3 platforms just like Cloud Mario, but it takes its own spin on it, so it'll have like a honeycomb version where you could kind of bounce on it, or maybe a concrete one so it kind of is very hard and stand still, different things like that. You can roll an armadillo ball like Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2 with the rolling Gizmo Galaxy and stuff. But there's a difference in that, and it feels a little weird. Astro Bot controls the same on the ball than off the ball. So there's no real difference. Even when he's going downhill, you just don't feel that crazy momentum that you would think you would feel on a ball. But it takes a little extra spin where you could kick the ball and actually hit an enemy and then have it return to you. That was cool. You have this like elephant that you can make expand and then essentially float up, like Yoshi in Mario Galaxy 2. You know, he would take the balloon power up and he would expand and go up, and that was also very cool. But again, it takes its own little spin where it's a lot more like you could really kind of really fly with it a lot faster than you also could shoot out and spin out, and also like blow up enemies. Pretty cool. So again, it takes inspiration and essentially literally takes ideas from Mario, but puts its own spin on it in a really positive way. But then at the same time, I look at something like Mario Galaxy, and where you can throw your hat and take control of enemies, and all of them are different, and then you start to think, well, what game did Mario Odyssey take things from? I'll tell you, nothing. Mario Odyssey was wholly unique. Mario Galaxy, what did it take from? Nothing. It was wholly unique. You know what I mean? Like, there's things like that where you're like, well, it's cool that it took ideas and try to iterate on it, but Mario is predominantly original ideas. Of course, it'll take power-ups or bring back power-ups here and there, but like majority of the time, it's always brand new ideas that were like, holy shit, where did they think of this stuff? And another thing for Astro Bot that I feel, this might definitely, I think, is much more personal opinion. I don't love Astro Bot being like the PlayStation thing. I know people, that's a big thing for this game, and I think that's why a lot of people really love it. Also, is these cameos. You know, they have a lot of these collectible PlayStation icon cameos, and that's cool. I enjoy that a lot. What I'm more talking about is, you know, the whole home base for Astro Bot is a PlayStation 5. You know, that's been done for like the past 3 games now. You got Mission Rescue with the whole VR stuff. You got Astro's Playroom building up also was a PS5, and then Astro Bot, you're building a PS5 again. And I don't love the fact that Astro Bot doesn't have his own unique world. Like, who is Astro Bot and what is his world? I'm glad that Mario is not building a Switch, you know, you know what I'm saying? And he's doing like Switch things, and he's grabbing Joy-Cons and things. You can have like references to things, you know, that's cool. But to literally make it like he's the technical aspect of the PlayStation is cool for some parts, but at the same time I'm like, what is Astro Bot? Like, what's his world? I want to know more about the character around him, but you know, unfortunately they tie it so tightly to PlayStation. The coins have the PlayStation icon plus the PlayStation logos, the icon logos. You got the stages based around the X, square, triangle buttons. You know, it's like I get it. It's based around a PlayStation. The every time you press the pause button, all the characters are inside the PlayStation controller, the DualSense. That's cool. I get it. But I want to know more of Astro Bot. Like, what are some unique things for Astro Bot? And that's the same with even the enemies, you know. They reuse essentially all the enemies from Playroom and also Rescue Mission. There's some new things for sure, but they really do reuse a lot of the same enemies for a large majority of the levels. And I don't know, with the enemies, I just feel like they could have had more variety. You know, they all share like the same designs. What's cool about them is different levels have maybe a different hat on or something, but realistically there's not a wide variety of enemy types, and especially when like I feel like 20 to 30% of them will hit you and not do damage. They just like tap you, they just kind of bump into you, they don't actually cause damage to you. Is a little weird. And that's why it's like, even, you know, if we start to take into account all platforms, like 2D platforms and stuff, then yeah, I mean, Astro Bot I think is not as good as Mario Wonder. You know, that might be controversial to some people, but like in the end of the day, Mario Wonder again has that crazy platforming. It also has a ton of variety, and it also has again the good platforming, but it also has those wonder seeds and all the crazy shit that goes on. You know, it has all of it. It has the perfection platforming with the crazy moveset, plus a bunch of different power-ups, plus the wonder shits. It's crazy. There's a lot of things that goes on. Rayman Legends is also one of those few like 2D side scrolls that I think is just up to par with like Mario Wonder stuff. That again, Rayman Legends, the movement is perfection. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, another one that again, all creative, all creativity and stuff. And I think people forget, man. People forget about all that type of stuff. People like to say, oh, the visuals for Astro Bot, but there's some crazy shit that these platformers that we've talked about do, and they all run at 60 FPS. They're not like they're not running. Oh, they're lagging behind. No, they push the power of these consoles. I mean, the fact that we have people talking about Astro Bot, comparing it to a 2007 or 2010 Wii game with Mario Galaxy, just shows how far Nintendo is from everybody. It's nuts when it comes to platforming. Again, I don't want to act like I'm downplaying Astro Bot, because this is one of the best 3D platformers. It's just below majority of the 3D Mario games. I would put it above 3D Land. You know, I haven't finished Sunshine, so I'm not going to quite say that, but of what I played, I'd put it above Sunshine. Mario 64 is tough, you know. I know people are gonna be like, oh, don't you shut up, Mario 64, but at the end of the day, like, it's tough because Mario 64 is a ton of fun and I absolutely loved it. But I might put it over Mario 64. I don't know. That's tough. That's honest. It's been so long since I've played Mario 64. It's been literally like a decade, so I'd have to go back and replay that. And then it's either tied or a little bit better than Mario 3D World. Like, it's not like it's neck and neck. But again, that just goes to show how good this game is. I don't think you understand. For me to say that is huge. It's the first 3D platformer that really takes a shot at 3D Mario and really does it a really damn good, well done job. And I think the next game needs to just have that moveset be a lot more expansive, make it more original in terms of who is Astro Bot, what they're doing, in terms of like his world. I don't need to see another PlayStation again, but I know it's going to be, and that's just what Astro Bot is. Fine. I think about another PlayStation platformer that I know people will not agree with me on this one, but Terraway Unfolded, man, I thought that game is fantastic. I love that game, and it is also on the more simpler side. It's very much like Astro Bot in that way, but it's more like adventure driven, and it's not quite like precision platforming or anything like that. But you're going on this adventure, this platforming adventure, and I love that game to death. And it is also much more original. It still has things like actual PlayStation icons and stuff in there, but they do it in a much more way that is more strictly game themed and themed towards this world that it's built around. And I absolutely love it. So yes, Astro Bot is one of the best 3D platformers of all time, but versing 3D Mario, it's just not quite up there. And if you consider every platformer in terms of 2D and 3D, then yeah, it's definitely not right there either. But is it up there? Abso-fucking-lutely. We're talking like top 10, maybe top 5. I don't know the actual list, but it's high up there on the list of greatest platformers of all time. And that just goes to show how good of a goddamn job they've done. But in the discussion of versing 3D Mario, nah, man. At that point, I go relax. The list is just so drastic. I'm talking, you're talking some of the best 3D Mario games, and then there's a big gap between that, and then you got a bunch of other platformers. Still some of the best of all time, but those very best are some of the best games of all time that are just like pure perfection in its creative level design, in its visuals and attention to details that people love, and then also the platforming, the moveset, the movement. Now look, that's not to say that you can't prefer Astro Bot over Mario Galaxy. That's fine. It is what it is. But in the end of the day, as this is just my opinion, because when I see people comparing that stuff, I also was like, you know what, let me make a video on it, because these are games that I've played a ton of. And when I break down the two of them, to me, it makes no sense. Again, Astro Bot's not trying to be Mario Odyssey. And when people say, oh, it's the PlayStation's Mario Odyssey, people just see platformer. Oh, it's a Jumpman versus a Jumpman. No, they're two completely different games. They're not even in the same echelon of what they're trying to attempt. Astro Bot is very much more like Mario 3D World. And in that case, it's very much close. You could very much give it to Astro Bot. I think the bosses are better in Astro Bot. I think just the overall game is, I would probably give it to Astro Bot. But not by that much. I mean, it's so damn close. But Team Asobi, you did a hell of a job. You did a fantastic job, and you are essentially the best team at PlayStation right now. This is the best PS5 game that you can play. It's absolutely the best PS5 game you can buy and play. It's fantastic. Again, one of my favorite platformers of all time is right here. It's just, when comparing it to some of the greatest of all time, I think people forget why they're some of the greatest of all time. People don't remember, man. So please, go back and play Mario Galaxy. Go back and play Mario Galaxy 2. And try to remember. Play that and be like, damn, this was on the Wii. And they're doing things that still the games on PS5 are still not doing. So it's again, they're so far ahead of the future in terms of movements and what you could do in a game that when people compare it, I'm like, all right, relax, guys. But the fact that we could even compare it and talk about it just shows how good of a caliber of a game this is, and I highly recommend playing it. If you don't own a PS5, I think it's worth it. Personally, I mean, to me, it's like, just get a PS5. You got Returnal, you got Astro Bot, you got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. There's some good shit on the PlayStation 5. Not a ton of good shit, but with you mix in third party, you got good shit. But at the end of the day, like, Sony, please make more stuff like this. Please, I would appreciate it. Thank you. That was my very long ramble on this. Hopefully, it was cohesive enough for you to understand. Let me know down in the comments below what you feel. Again, if to me, I'm not comparing this to Mario Odyssey. I guess because it's platform versus platform, but it's just not trying to be that. It's just not. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Astro Bot, how you feeling about this game? Did you love it as much as I did? Do you love it so much? Is it your favorite game of all time? I don't know. Let me know. I'll see you guys next time. Let me shut up. I'll see you guys. Peace out.
growing. I'm tired of working for companies, lumping me, hungry to fucking work for myself. Luckily, I've been a killer bee, silently writing these rhymes to put on my shelf. Deliver the dopamine, hoping you roll with me, know that I got so much stories to tell. May not have the image, may not have the bitches, but I got a vision, gotta keep it vicious when it comes to writing. Only thing I'm fine with pen is always flying, ink is always drying, ain't